Hey, it's Ray with Sober Without God, and welcome to Saturday Book Review. And this will be my second book review. And last time I introduced a character from the Stuart Woods series. Stone Barrington is the name of the character. And I talked about him a lot last time. He is a ex-New York cop who turned into a lawyer. And this is the book. This is his origin story. This is the first one in the Stone Barrington series. And if you're going to read the Stone Barrington series, now this is the first one. It's written in 1991. So, spoiler alert, it's your fault if you are not up on Stone Barrington and if there are spoilers in this, since it's been 200 years since the book was written and you haven't read it. So, I'm going to talk a little bit today about this book. And you probably won't even read it, but here it is. And I'm going to talk about the Stone Barrington series. And I've been reading a few books in the series, and I'm going to share them with you over the next few weeks. But I find this main character, very interesting. Now, these books are not intended to be War and Peace or the adventures of Tom Sawyer or Great Expectations. These are books you can read in a couple of sittings, 2 or 3 sittings, or listen to an audiobook and get it over with and just have your mind escape and go somewhere else. They're like audio soap operas, is exactly what they are. And Stone Barrington, the main character, is a dog. You put him in the same room with a woman, and he will be extremely attracted to her and probably end up in bed with her. And that's just how he is. And he even says in one of the other books, he doesn't know what it is about him. He just can't seem to help himself. And that's just who he is. Well, in New York Dead, he just happens to be walking along the street and he sees a woman who happens to be a famous actress jumping off a building and flying out the window and plops down on the ground. He assumes she's dead and he runs up the stairs to see if somebody pushed her, and he finds the assailant and he chases after him, but his knee's been hurting. And that's one of the key things about Stone Barrington. He has to retire eventually in this book and quit the New York Police Department, but it's kind of a conspiracy because he's getting too close to the actual killer is in New York Dead. She was pushed by someone, and you find out later who. And so he gets too close to the truth, and so they make him retire a medical retirement. And so he finds himself out of a job, and while he's out of a job, we find out in the book that he went to law school, but he never took the bar. So he's like, what am I going to do with my life? Well, the woman who was pushed off the building, her name was Sasha. But he also meets up with the woman who's a TV producer. Her name's Carrie. So he and Carrie, they get along pretty well. Really well. Really, really well. And she's like, why don't you just take the bar? I mean, you tell us you're a law school. Why would you go be a cop after going to law school? That's a really good question that I would like to ask Stuart Woods. But sadly, Stuart Woods passed away in 2022, even though his books are still coming out. So he goes and takes the bar and he passes, and he gets hired by a very prestigious law firm. And they're like, we want you to be a private investigator. And so they put him on a case. They're like, hey, we got something for you to do. And all this stuff's under the table. And so they hire him. They said, we have a guy who's cheating on his wife, and his wife wants video evidence. And in fact, it's kind of a dated reference. They say she doesn't want some kind of Rob Lowe sex tape. A Rob Lowe sex tape. Now, this is how dated it is. You may not even know who Rob Lowe is. He's a famous actor back in the 90s, and he had a sex tape that got exposed to the whole world. But anyway, Stone Barrington's like, man, I'll get you whatever you want. If you want this guy and this lady caught on tape cheating, then I'm your guy. So he hires somebody, and he hires this friend of his who does work like this. And he's like, hey, you got me? He's like, of course I got you. He's like, well, you meet me here and we'll find out where they are and where they're meeting up. So this other guy who's doing all the videotaping, he shows up armed with a water pistol. And Stone Barrington's like, what are you doing with the water pistol? He said, just trust me. Trust me, okay? And so the guy sneaks up to the room, gets into the front door, and he sees them in there, and they're going at it. And he flips the light on, and they both shield their eyes. And the other guy, he's like, got the water pistol, and he starts shooting them with the water pistol while they're in flagrante delicto. And they both go to protect themselves, and they fling their arms up like this, and he gets video recording of them in bed together. And he's like, see, it worked. They shielded their eyes when the light came on. And when you squirt them with the water pistol, they go to protect themselves. Just in case, helpful YouTube video if you ever need to videotape someone in the moment. So anyway, he gets that done, but he also finds out that the person who is cheating with the guy happens to be the woman he's romantically involved with. So Stone Barrington's girlfriend, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so devastated. She's sleeping around, even though he's sleeping around. And Stone Barrington, his moral compass, it might as well have taken a jump off a 40-foot building or a 40-story building and hit the ground. But the woman who jumped off the building, this famous actress, the crazy thing was she didn't die. So she's missing the whole book. She jumps off the building right in front of Stone, lands on a dirt pile, and the paramedics go to get her. And the paramedics put her in the ambulance, and they get her in the ambulance, and on the way to the hospital, it gets hit by a fire truck. And then it causes this big accident with a whole lot of people. And they go try to track down and find her where she is, but she's just missing. And no one ever finds her. And no one can ever locate her. So he spends the whole book while he's been retired from the police department. And he's like, I'm not letting this go. I know she's still out there somewhere. And you meet a lot of people. There are some couple of trigger warnings in case for some reason you want to go to your bookstore. It's not available on Kindle, I don't think, and find an old copy of New York Dead. There are some there. He learned after the first book, he does use a racial slander. And he also is not very kind to the LGBTQ community. The characters aren't. So if that's a trigger for you, then don't pick this up at Goodwill. And it's in there. And they talk like New Yorkers. So it's no excuse for it. But it's in there. Which brings up an interesting question. There's a lot of authors who use it as part of their writing. So it's a good philosophical discussion as whether it's okay for book characters in books to use slander against racial or infringe groups or not. But that's a different story and a different video for another time. But he does do it. And so he chases and he does find her. He does locate Sasha, who jumped off the building. And he also does locate the person responsible for her disappearance. And he tracks her all the way down with his partner, Dino. And they go all the way through it to a smashing. And I thought I had figured out. I really did. And you'll learn a lot about Stuart Woods. And in fact, this is one of his better writings of the books I've read. I just got done reading one of his that wasn't so great. And if I had to get it out of 5 out of 5, 5 being 5 Stone Barringtons and 1 being 1 Stone Barrington, I would definitely give it a 4 out of 5. And I think you would enjoy reading it if you had nothing else to do and if you were just looking for something light to read. So hope you enjoyed it, and hope you'll follow me next time and enjoy the review of Dirt, the next novel in the series.